Hello and welcome to Movies You Missed Podcast. I'm V.
I'm John.
And we are two industry veterans who love to recommend movies to you without spoiling them.
Not one spoiler here in 102 episodes. This is now 103, and there won't be a spoiler here either.
That's right. In this week's episode, we are taking a very dark turn.
Oh, yes, are we ever.
We have picked two Jake Gyllenhaal thrillers for your listening pleasure. But before we get into these two dark movies, we love to discuss the movies we saw in theaters or on streaming this week.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe we both saw new movies this week.
We did indeed. V, do you want to take it away?
Oh, please, feel free to go first.
Okay, I shall then. Saturday night, I went to the theaters to check out what is considered in a horror movie. I saw the new Sydney Sweeney-led Immaculate, and this movie sucks in every regard. I'm one of those people that really does not like when people laugh during a horror movie, but I was that guy. I was laughing because of just how awful this movie was. Sydney Sweeney's not a good actress.
Nope.
I have not seen a whole lot of her, I don't think, actually, coming to think of it, and this movie turned me off to her completely. So I don't recommend this movie. There's no sense of dread. There's gore for gore's sake, and it just is a stupid, dumbass movie.
And tell everyone what you said when the credits started rolling in the theater, John.
Oh, yes. At the end of the movie, I stood up and said, well, happy Easter, everybody, and I walked out, and the theater took that very lightly and laughed along with me. And I was not the only person laughing in the theater during some of these quote-unquote terrifying moments. So if you're out there and you think that Immaculate's a good horror movie, we need to talk.
Or if you're out there and we're considering seeing Immaculate as a horror movie, don't watch it?
Don't
Okay.
Go see it. No, wait till it's on streaming, and you can be pissed when you finish it on streaming, if you can even finish it. So that was the bad movie that I saw. Yeah. But other than that, I did take my father and my sister and I used to go to the movies a lot back before the COVID days. And my sister has not been to the movies in, I would say maybe 6 or 7 years. So this was her first return back to the cinema.
Wow.
We went and saw, yeah, I know. We went and saw Godzilla Kong, The New Empire in the 4DX theater. And my sister walked out of that theater completely revived in going to the movies. She had an absolute blast, and that really made me feel great. And on top of that, the movie is a lot of fun. If you are a fan of the Monarch series of these movies, check it out. It's a continuation after Godzilla vs. Kong, which was just a few years ago. A completely ridiculous, awesome monster movie full of carnage, and it was just so much fun. And it was just a blast to see my sister completely fall in love with the 4DX experience.
Is that series like Fast and Furious with monsters?
Oh, God, no.
Oh, okay. So it's not that ridiculous.
No, it's definitely not that ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
It's more, it's monster movie. It's creatures. So, of course, they're destroying cities while they're battling each other, but that's the whole point of the fun.
Nice. Well, I'm so glad your sister not only joined you, but had a great time.
Yeah, indeed. And my dad also loved it as well. My reel is now on social media, so if you have any interest in seeing it, I highly recommend it before it's out of theaters. It is a theater-worthy movie, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad the movies redeemed themselves in your eyes this week after Immaculate.
That they did indeed. And now, V, I'm very curious to hear what you saw over the last week.
I took your advice and watched Ricky Stenicki on Amazon Prime.
Oh, here we go.
My sister and I hung out last week, and I really wanted to watch it with her, and we gave it a shot, and it was pretty good. We laughed. I think John Cena was absolutely the best part of that movie.
Oh, definitely.
He certainly stole the show. I just didn't laugh as much as Joyride. I actually preferred Joyride over Ricky Stenicki.
Oh, sure.
Which came out last year, which you also recommended to me.
Indeed.
But it's a good, fun, raunchy time. It'll definitely be on my movies you could miss list. It wasn't awful. And if you like either Zac Efron or John Cena or just like raunchy comedies, go ahead and give it a shot. It's on Amazon Prime.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's not going to win any awards or be the best movie of the year, but it's certainly hilarious at certain moments.
Yes, absolutely.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for suggesting I watch it.
Of course.
Well, thank you all for joining us on this very intense episode. And because it's episode 103, I believe you go first.
I do.
You want to dive into our first Jake Gyllenhaal movie then?
I think we should. Why not? And without further ado, let's jump in. This film comes to us from 2014, 10 years ago. This film was released on Halloween. This film is written and directed by Dan Gilroy. His directorial debut, by the way.
Nice.
Oh yeah, this film stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, Bill Paxton, rest in peace, and Riz Ahmed. This is Nightcrawler, everybody.
A film I swore I would never watch again.
Oh, wow, that's intense. I can understand why.
And it was absolutely not because it wasn't good, not because the performances weren't great or the storyline wasn't entertaining. It was just that disturbing.
Yes, this is one of the more disturbing Jake Gyllenhaal roles that I've seen. For those of you that have been listening to us from the get-go, we are fans of Jake Gyllenhaal. I actually fell for Jake Gyllenhaal with my pick many, many episodes ago of Source Code, episode 33.
And I did Edge of Tomorrow.
Ah, wonderful. That was a pretty good choice of movies, time travel-esque and whatnot.
Our Groundhog Day theme movies.
That's right, Groundhog Day, yes. And just 7 episodes ago, we did our reviewer request episode where Clarissa LaVaughn chose October Sky, starring a very young Jake Gyllenhaal.
Much younger and more wholesome than this movie.
Oh, most definitely. This movie opens up in the city of Los Angeles. We meet Lou. He's in a train yard, and he's got some wire cutters, and he's cutting some fence up. And a security guard comes up to him and basically is telling him, put your hands on your head, you're trespassing, let me see your ID. And Lou's like, oh, I didn't know that I was trespassing. I had no idea where I was. I must have gotten a bit lost. And Lou sees this very nice watch that this guy is wearing and decides to assault the shit out of him and steal the watch. And that's how this movie opens up. So shortly after this assault, we find out that Lou has got a couple of things in the back of his car that we're not entirely sure what he's planning to do with these yet. However, he does show up at a construction site and gets in touch with the manager there and tries to sell this stuff off. This manager is really not buying into it. Manager pretty much knows that this stuff is hot, and he's not going to really want to do any business with Lou. Lou also then tries to get a job working in construction at this site, and this guy is really just not interested in hiring him at all. And the interesting thing about this scene, I remember it really well from the trailer, and then when I saw this movie, this is actually the second time I've ever seen Nightcrawler. It's a movie that sticks with you, though, that's for sure. And he's very tenacious, he's very overbearing, and the manager of the construction site is not really interested in hearing any of this. So Lou leaves empty-handed, no money, and he's driving around Los Angeles. He comes up on a car accident on the freeway, and he sees these cops trying to pull a person from the wreckage. The wreckage is on fire. So at one point, while Lou is walking up to this wreckage, a van pulls up, and 2 guys get out with cameras, and they start shooting all this mayhem going on. One of these guys is played by Bill Paxton.
It was so good to see him again in a movie.
Yeah, it was great. And I remember in theaters when he showed up, I was like, dude, hell yeah, Bill Paxton. Haven't seen him in a minute.
Right?
So that was great that we now have Bill Paxton in this movie as a supporting character. And after the fire department shows up to put the fire out, Bill Paxton's character is walking back to his van with his camera, and Lou's like, what are you doing here, man? Like, what is all this? He goes, oh, I shoot this kind of stuff, and I send it, and I sell it to the a news channel. And Lou's like, what news channel? He says, whichever one pays the highest. So then Lou gets a look inside his van. He sees he's got all this equipment. He's got a Wi-Fi connection. He's uploading things. He's got an editing bay basically in his van. Watching this movie, I'll never forget it. I was like, that's how we get all of the stuff that you see on the news. Because I've always thought, even when I was a kid, I was like, wait a minute, that car accident just happened. How is there a news crew there already shooting this shit? Well, they're called Nightcrawlers, hence the title of this movie. So Lou is very fascinated with this potentiality that he might be able to sink his teeth into, and he himself tries to pawn off some stuff. He steals a bike and tries to pawn it off and tries to get a shitload of money for it, but the guy at the pawn shop's like, no, I'm going to give you about $700, $800 for this. After gathering a little bit more money, he's able to buy a camera. And then he also needs to get a police scanner so that he can listen to where some of these accidents are, so he can get to them, so he can get this footage and beat Bill Paxton's character in getting this footage to a news channel. So now that he's got this equipment, he spends his nights listening to the police scanner, trying to figure out if he can make it to these accidents, these robberies, these crime scenes before anybody else can. He ends up hiring an intern, played by Riz Ahmed, who actually beat out 75 other actors to play the character of Rick.
Whoa.
I know. I was actually really surprised because, Riz Ahmed, he's a pretty good actor. And I'm going to say this, and it's going to be on record, and I know a lot of people love this movie. Sound of Metal was garbage. That movie sucked. I hated it. Not because there was no death metal in that movie, but the movie just was not very good. He was fine, but I did not think that was a Best Picture, a Best Actor sort of Oscar-type movie. But I loved him in this movie, especially when we are introduced to Rick. He's very timid. He's very much needing money. And the fucked up part is, of course, Lou was like, well, I can start you at $30 a night. It's like $30 a night. Good God. And Lou pitches to him that they're going to be out every night. So if they're out there 7 nights a week and he's giving him $30, that's $210 a week. That's like chump change.
Not enough for rent.
Not at all. Not at all. And Rick is saying that he's been homeless and yada, yada, yada. So Lou at one point gets a lot of really good footage. He goes to a local news station. He meets the news director played by Renee Russo, who actually is Dan Gilroy's wife.
Oh.
I know. That role was written specifically for his wife.
That's kind of fucked up.
Why?
Because that role, she's
morally fucked.
Yeah.
Everybody in this movie is morally fucked. This is one of those Game of Thrones movies where you're like, you like these people, but you fucking hate them at the same time.
Yes,
but do you really like Lou? I don't know.
No,
I love him, but I hate him at the same time. He's such a weaselly POS.
Everybody talks about Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men being a good example of a psychopath.
Oh, sure.
I argue Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler is better.
Ooh. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I do love No Country for Old Men, but his performance in this movie is so chilling. And the fact is, the guy almost never blinks. And he's got bug eyes.
You can
like
see
his
white
eyes
all around his eyes. That's the sign that someone's crazy.
Yeah, he's got his eyes like just trapped open. It's nuts. I remember watching it just the other night, and I was like, is he gonna fucking blink? Like, is he gonna blink at all? But like you said, you can see the whites of his eyes. Mm-hmm. He reminds me of David Miscavige, just completely soulless behind the eyes.
Yes.
And if anybody doesn't know that name, he is the director and leader of the Church of Scientology.
We're
going to get canceled, and Leah Remini is going to have to come and hang out with us and make sure that none of the Scientologists come after us. And I'm kind of surprised that none of the Scientologists ever came after me, because I used to live right off of Franklin in Hollywood, and I would drive by and scream, "Where's David Miscavige? Where is he? I got a package for him."
Sorry, not sorry, Tom Cruise.
No, not sorry at all. But anyway, this guy, Lou, completely soulless, he's hungry. And that's another thing, too, that I think I really liked about the character is he goes for it. He doesn't hold himself back in any way, shape, or form. And he starts to really get interesting shots. Like, he's not getting the type of stuff that you see on the news. He's getting close-ups of people bleeding out in the street. He's getting close-ups of people having just been shot. He manages to beat out just about every other Nightcrawler to these crime scenes, to these accidents. And at one point, Bill Paxton, very similarly to last week's episode with Grosser trying to recruit Martin Blank, Bill Paxton's character tries to recruit Lou to be on his team and drive his second van and work together, but Lou is not even remotely interested. Lou is going into business for himself. He really wants to grow from the ground up. That's all good and well. It's just twisted how he does it. And, there's an interesting part of this movie, too, is just a few years after this movie came out, there was a Netflix documentary called Shot in the Dark, and it only went one season, very unfortunately, but it was about Nightcrawlers in Los Angeles, and my wife and I watched it all. Yeah, V, you should check it out. It's actually really, really interesting. And the interesting thing also about that documentary is that there were 2 brothers in that documentary. The Raichbrook brothers have cameos in this movie. They are 2 of the subjects in the Shot in the Dark documentary. And Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed did ride-alongs with those brothers to prepare for this movie.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty badass. And watching the documentary, it is very, very interesting. But at the same time, similar to how you and myself hate night shoots, they're out all night long. Yeah. And that's just not a way I want to live my life.
The thing about his character that disturbs me so much is how seamlessly he lies.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
From
completely
the get-go,
pathological. Yeah.
He has no qualms about doing what he wants to get ahead. And the whole time I'm thinking in this film, of course, he's escalating what he's doing in order to get better and better shots and get more money.
Right.
And it just made me think, whatever you're willing to do, someone else is always willing to go further.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And similarly to, like I said, he's working on this little project of his from the ground up, and he knows that he's got something, because not only does Rene Russo's character say that he's got an eye for something like this, but he really also wants to kind of ingratiate himself into her life and try to become very friendly and chummy with everybody that works at the news station, because he's trying to find a different angle that he can kind of attack on. He's basically on the prowl and, looking for the perfect moment to strike.
He's always looking to take advantage of the situation to get ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. And when you're a freelancer, that's kind of how you got to do it in no uncertain terms. But I didn't abuse others to kind of get my foot in the door and get ahead, like what Lou starts to do. And once he gets Riz Ahmed's character involved, you see the lengths that he's willing to go to take advantage of people to get what he wants. So V, I'm curious, 10 years later, what did you think of Nightcrawler for a second time?
This is one of those movies that stays with you. I actually remembered this movie from beginning to end, and I debated whether or not I should watch it because I had sworn I would never watch it again after watching it in theaters. And of course I did for this podcast. It was your pick.
Yes.
And so I remembered everything that was happening, but I was no less disturbed or chilled, even though I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was so creeped out, and this movie's so well written, combined with Jake Gyllenhaal's acting. His acting, of course, sells this morally reprehensible or morally bankrupt character.
Yes.
But the script is fantastic too, and I had forgotten a couple of lines of dialogue in this film, and one of them that I really loved that I think really illustrated everything is when he says, "What if my problem wasn't that I don't understand people, but that I don't like them?"
Oh yeah, that was an intense moment.
And it did give me a little bit of a new perspective on Rene Russo's character. I'd always felt bad for her since watching this film for the first time. But the second time watching it, I actually changed my perspective a little bit in this movie. So I'm glad I revisited it. I don't think I'll ever watch it again because it is so uncomfortable, but that does not diminish the quality of this film. It's just hard for me to watch.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally understand. After seeing it the first time, I was at my parents' house, and my sister had come over, and she said, "Hey, I just saw this movie called Nightcrawler." I was like, "Oh, yeah." She goes, "That was such a fucked movie." I'm like, "I know, it was so crazy." She goes, "But I loved it. I couldn't look away." I'm like, "No, I couldn't either." It was one of those, I mean, it's a train wreck, like you can't look away.
It's a car crash, yeah.
It's a car crash. And, and again, in no certain terms, like we're watching car accidents and stuff like that. And I'll never forget when my sister and I started talking about it, and she goes, "Oh, I don't even want to recall any of the dialogue." And I went, "Oh, come on, it's Friday. It's Thai Friday." And my sister just kind of did this shudder. I remember that moment in the movie, and I was just like, man, this guy is completely devoid of reality, basically.
Or empathy, or consideration of others, or a frontal cortex, apparently.
Well, both Jake Gyllenhaal and Tony Gilroy actually agreed that Lou needed to eliminate all classic moral labels for this character. And he did that fantastically. Because, again, every time I think of characters similar to Lou, I always think of Cersei Lannister. I'm just like, I loved that character, but I hated her so much because she was such a monster. And, this could be classified as a horror monster movie, I feel like. Definitely a psychological type of a horror movie.
It really is, and I wish the Academy was a little bit more brave in terms of the films that they nominate, because this film was too dark, too gritty, too violent for the Academy to consider, and it's such a missed opportunity because I absolutely think that Jake Gyllenhaal deserved an Oscar nomination for this performance.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, too, because when we did Training Day, Denzel Washington won for playing the anti-hero. So I don't think the Academy is necessarily afraid of it, but maybe it was the independent aspect of it all. Maybe they at that time there weren't a lot of the smaller budgeted movies being nominated for Best Picture or Best Actor or Best Screenplay or anything like that. So maybe that's why?
But you have to remember, Alonzo, Denzel's character in Training Day, he had a girlfriend, he had a kid, he wanted to take care of people, he had friends.
I guess that's true, yeah.
I think a closer analogy might be Hannibal Lecter. Because Anthony Hopkins got nominated for his performance.
Sure.
But that was a more mainstream movie, so the combination of those probably could have helped. But yes, I would argue that this performance totally warrants an Oscar nomination because it's so good.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up Javier Bardem. Javier Bardem won Best Supporting Actor for No Country for Old Men.
Then I don't know why they didn't nominate him.
I don't either. I'm not entirely sure.
Have.
It's really sad because, speaking of the nominations, Gyllenhaal was nominated for the Golden Globe, the BAFTA, the SAG, the Critics' Choice Awards, the Independent Spirit Awards, and the Saturn Award.
Oh, shit.
He got nominated for every other award show, but not the Academy Award. And that is why the title of this episode is Give Jake Gyllenhaal an Oscar already.
Exactly.
Not for Roadhouse, but definitely for this movie.
Yes.
Even though Roadhouse was great.
It was.
Now, Riz and Jake actually did a lot of no sleeping while shooting this movie because not only do they need to be up all night, but
they looked a little feral.
Yeah, they did, and I like that. Before we started recording, you said this is that he was a feral coyote, and Jake Gyllenhaal said that he actually kind of based his character on a coyote. And the original title of this movie had coyote in the title.
Oh.
So they changed it all up to be Nightcrawler, which I think the title's great. I think it's amazing. I do remember, however, though, seeing the poster for this and seeing Nightcrawler and being like, ooh, a spinoff from X2. But then, of course, saw the trailer, and it most certainly is not a spinoff of a Marvel movie.
No, not at all.
Even though Jake Gyllenhaal is Mysterio in one of the Marvel movies now.
True.
And he was great. I loved him in that Spider-Man movie, too. Big Jake Gyllenhaal fan here. Just don't like Donnie Darko. And I'll stick to that until I die. Now, this movie, like we said, shot overnight, which you and IV both despise. This movie had 80 locations.
Whoa. All over LA?
Yeah, all over Los Angeles.
Okay.
There are several times where they're driving on Laurel Boulevard in North Hollywood, which was just west of Lankershim, where my first apartment was. They shot this movie over a 4-week period over the length of 28 nights.
4 weeks? That's all it took?
Yeah.
There's some pretty good stunts in this movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's
absolutely.
even a really sweet car chase.
Oh, hell yeah. And that car chase actually takes place on Laurel Boulevard, and they shut down 10 blocks of Laurel Boulevard over a few night period to get that car chase sequence done. And it's really, really good.
28
it is
days.
Awesome.
Oh, it's so good. But I'm still mind-boggled. 28 days. That's so tight of a shoot.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And 80 locations over 28 nights. Now,
Jesus.
that means this was a travel movie. They shot, and they got in the cars and vans, and they drove to the next location. So they were just on the run and gun shooting this movie.
Yeah,
there are a few day shots. There are a few when
Yes.
he's at home mostly, and when he's outside, and when Bill Paxton approaches him to join in with him. But everything in the studio, I mean, technically, that's probably night too, because they have windows looking out. And, we all know the night for day, day for night sort of thing, but they needed it practical. So that's pretty intense.
3 locations per day minimum that they were doing.
Minimum, yeah. And when I
Wow.
was doing Ray Donovan, we did a week of overnights on Ray Donovan, and 3 of those nights we went to 6 different locations around downtown Los Angeles.
Damn.
Those were brutal days.
Mm-hmm.
But still, at the same time, kind of a lot of fun.
Yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal ended up losing 20 pounds for this movie. He kept that weight off by running 15 miles a day, eating kale salads, and doing a lot of chewing of gum as well.
Oh, so he was just hungry for months.
Hungry for months. And that was all Jake Gyllenhaal's idea.
Wow.
And Gyllenhaal was involved in just about every aspect of production. He is labeled a producer on this movie. So, I mean, it's really kick-ass. And again, this was Dan Gilroy's debut. He got a budget of $8.5 million for this movie.
Whoa, that's got to be because he was married to Renee Russo. Because
I imagine so.
First-time directors don't get an $8 million budget.
They really don't. But at the same time, they had Gyllenhaal involved, and it makes me wonder what Gyllenhaal's salary was. I'm going to guess it was in the 1 to 2 mil range.
Yeah.
Very likely. And Renee Russo could have worked for free, but I hope she got paid.
Well, if it was a SAG movie,
mil.
if it was a SAG movie, she had to work at minimum at scale.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't not pay someone on a union shoot.
Exactly. It has happened, but then they get paid later.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we discussed, I think it was 12 Monkeys, where Bruce Willis didn't get paid until weeks after the production ended. But still, pretty awesome. There's a scene also in this movie that freaks me out. I remember it from the trailer. I was like, oh, haha, that's going to be a weird moment. But then I saw it and was like, oh my gosh, this is a really fucked up moment in this movie. The scene where he is looking at himself in the mirror and he destroys his mirror in his apartment.
Very creepy.
Oh, very creepy. And Gyllenhaal was really into it, that it was actually an improvised scene. And Gyllenhaal ended up slicing his hand open while doing that scene. And this scene was shot on hour 19 of a very long 19-hour shoot day. After he sliced his hand open, Dan Gilroy drove him to the hospital. 4-hour procedure to put 46 stitches in his hand.
Whoa.
Yes. And then he returned to set 6 hours later to shoot the opening of the movie where he's trying to badger the construction manager into getting him a job. That's why his hand is behind his back the whole time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
That's intense. It sounds like Jake Gyllenhaal's a little method.
It sounds like it indeed. This movie is also partially based on Arthur Feelig. He was a photojournalist who was known for getting to crime scenes early before police and any other Nightcrawler because all he did was stay awake at night listening to the police scanners.
Ooh.
I know, really intense. It reminds me of that scene in The Incredibles, right? when Frozone and Mr. Incredible are listening to the police scanner and they're trying to go and, be superheroes during their retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was an unfinished cut that was shown at Cannes that year in 2014. Everybody seemed to very much enjoy it, and a bidding war began, and Open Road was the winner as the distribution company, so congrats to Open Road.
Awesome.
I mentioned this movie had an $8.5 million budget. It was released on Halloween of 2014. I did see this opening weekend with my buddies. We went to the ArcLight to see it. The theater was packed, and I remember everybody just walking out and being like, whoa, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. That was a tough one. Now, the opening weekend box office was $10.4 million.
Awesome.
Yes. Domestic box office, $32.3 million.
Jesus.
And the worldwide box office, $47.4 million.
Wow, that did really well. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did not know that it went that far. Very happy that it did because it is a movie. I don't know if everybody needs to see it, but if you are a movie lover and you question if you are a Jake Gyllenhaal fan, this could turn you into a Jake Gyllenhaal fan.
Yes, if you've only ever seen Prince of Persia, you should watch this film instead.
Now, one of my favorite segments here, we have done the year 2014 before, but it was a good year for movies. A couple of my favorite movies were in the top 100. I'll go through them for you in case you don't remember the year 2014. V, what do you think the highest grossing film of 2014 was? I know I've asked you before. It's a franchise movie. I think this was number 3. There are like 8 or 9 of them now. Hasbro.
Is it a Transformers movie?
It is a Transformers movie.
Damn it.
Transformers Age of Extinction. I don't think I saw that one. I think that was the one with the Tyrannosaurus robot that I was like, okay, I'm done with the Transformers movies. But then I saw Transformers The Last Night with Anthony Hopkins only because they shot it outside of the stage I was working on Scream Queens of, so I decided to check that one out. It wasn't terrible.
Anthony Hopkins was in a Transformers movie?
Yes, of course.
Oh my God. I just talked to Monty, one of our listeners last week, a good friend of mine, and he said Rise of the Beast was actually a redemption Transformers movie, and it was really good.
Well, the only problem with that one is that Pete Davidson is one of the voices, and that's very likely why I won't watch it on my own. It has to be put on in front of me.
Fair.
The second highest grossing film, another kind of franchise, but this was the 6th that there already were 3 really good ones, and then there were 3 other ones made. All shot in New Zealand about little people.
Oh, yeah, The Hobbit.
Yes, but it wasn't The Hobbit. It was the Battle of the Five Armies.
Oh, well, they took The Hobbit, which is a single book, broke it up into 3 movies.
And turned it into 3 new movies. Yeah, I never saw any of them.
Nope.
I remember when they came out and everyone's like, oh, what's going on with the shutter and the frame rate and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. The third highest grossing film, the first of now 3, although they show up in all of the Marvel movies now.
Oh, no. The Avengers was 2012.
Yep, not the Avengers. They are in Infinity War, this group of misfits, if you will.
Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes, Guardians of the Galaxy. Fourth highest grossing film, Maleficent, one of my favorite Angelina Jolie movies.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Hunger Games, Mockingjay, Part 1, never saw it. Number 6, X-Men, Days of Future Past, one of the greatest X-Men movies ever.
One of the best comic book movies.
Yes, one of the best time travel movies, too.
Yes.
Such a badass movie.
And you know how much I love time travel movies.
Yes, indeed. The 7th highest grossing film was a Captain America movie, Winter Soldier. The 8th highest grossing film, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I've not seen any of them, but I'm going to have to get through those other 3 because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is coming out in May, and that one looks like it's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Number 9, Amazing Spider-Man number 2 with Andrew Garfield. 10th highest grossing film, my favorite, although it's battling for my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, Matthew McConaughey, Michael Caine, Timothée Chalamet, Anne Hathaway.
Matthew McConaughey's in that film?
In Interstellar, absolutely.
Oh, God, yes. Sorry, I was stuck on a Leo DiCaprio kick with Christopher Nolan and was thinking of Inception. Sorry.
Oh. No. Number 10 was Interstellar, highest grossing film of 2014.
Which is one of your favorite movies, and I know that.
Yes. The 11th highest grossing film, Disney's Big Hero 6. Fantastic animation.
A movie that's on my list.
Hell yeah. The 14th highest grossing movie, the first of the Monarch series of movies, Godzilla with Bryan Cranston. The 18th highest grossing film, Scarlett Johansson and Luc Besson's Lucy. The 20th highest grossing film, Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, and Bill Paxton in Doug Liman's Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah. 21st highest grossing film, Gone Girl. I got to see it again because I really did not like it the first time, but now I think I want to rewatch it. Number 26th highest grossing film, the second of the 21st Jump Street movies, 22 Jump Street. Number 29, Paddington. Number 31, Seth Rogen, Rose Byrne, and Zac Efron in Neighbors.
God, I love that film.
So good. Number 73, a pick of mine when we did our Emma Stone episode, Birdman or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. Number 80, highest grossing film, your pick for Dia de los Muertos, Book of Life. Number 89, Keanu Reeves and John Leguizamo in John Wick.
The one that started it all.
Yes, and the 134th highest grossing film of 2014, coming in with my pick of this week, Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty good year for movies. Now I think it's time to track down some missing children. V, what do you say?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, let's do it.
We are going back 1 year to 2013 and completely changing gears when it comes to Jake Gyllenhaal, because in this film, all you want him to do is save you.
Exactly.
He's a very trustworthy hero in this movie. It also stars Hugh Jackman, directed by one of my all-time favorite directors, Denis Villeneuve. This is Prisoners.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think he has a bad movie. I think he and Christopher Nolan are like on spectrum with each other.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad he's getting recognition that he deserves with Dune and Dune 2.
Absolutely.
And I'll jump into Denis Villeneuve's full filmography a little bit later on, but first, let me explain the plot of Prisoners.
Please do.
This movie opens up on a pretty regular Thanksgiving Day in Pennsylvania. The Dover family, that consists of Keller Dover, played by Hugh Jackman, Grace Dover, his wife, played by Maria Bello, and their son and daughter, walk down the street to their best friend's house. Franklin Birch and his family, played by Terrence Howard, is Keller's best friend, and they've been best friends since high school. And as they grew up and started their families, they decided to live near each other, and now their kids are best friends too. And it's a really sweet story, and really just normal family doing Thanksgiving activities.
Definitely.
At one point after eating, Keller Dover's daughter, Anna, and Franklin Birch's daughter, Joy, say that they want to go back to the Dover's house just to find a whistle of Anna's. The parents say, okay, have your older brother walk you back. It'll be fine. And one of the things that I absolutely love about this movie is that a kidnapping is not a big event. There's not some climactic thing that happens. It's a normal day, parents making normal decisions. Oh yeah, make sure your brother walks with you.
Right.
The girls leave. The parents go back to hanging out with each other. Franklin Birch plays the trumpet.
Yeah.
It's nice to know we both play the trumpet better than Terrence Howard.
Yes, definitely.
And then at one point, someone asks, where are the girls? And that's all that happens. And it turns out the girls hadn't asked Anna's older brother to walk them back. They walked back by themselves. And the panic, slowly but surely, begins to mount. Everybody gets their coats on and starts looking for the girls. And at one point, Keller Dover's son says, you know, when we were walking around playing earlier today, the girls climbed on this RV, and it seemed like there was someone in it, and we grabbed the girls and walked away from it, but there was an RV in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, once the police are called, an APB is put out for an RV. And this is where we get introduced to Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays Detective Loki, and he is such a badass in this film.
Oh, yeah.
I want a Detective Loki movie.
Definitely. That would be awesome.
Because still waters run deep in this character. He's so fascinating. You want to know why he has his tattoos. At one point, Grace Dover mentions how he has solved every case he's ever been assigned.
Yeah.
There's a moment where he mentioned he grew up in an all-boys home. And in a sea of panicking parents, Jake Gyllenhaal's Detective Loki is there to be the professional, to calm everyone down, and he doesn't lose his cool. And he's just such a great counterpoint to this trauma.
Oh, completely. Watching it this time around, I was like, man, this guy is as cool as a cucumber. While Hugh Jackman is yelling at him, he's in a situation like that. Of course, the detective needs to not lash out, but you can see that underneath, he really does want to be like, just shut the fuck up. Like...
Like, he'll make comments under his breath when Hugh Jackman's character is walking up to him. He's like, ah, shit.
Right.
He is trying his best to solve this crime while handling these completely distraught parents. Mm-hmm. And on the other side, you totally empathize with what these 4 parents are dealing with and how each of them are reacting in their own way. As the hours progress from this kidnapping, Keller Dover especially is really starting to lose it and keeps going after Detective Loki about where his daughter is. And Hugh Jackman played this role so well. He's a Christian man, he's a family man, he's a little bit of a doomsday prepper, and so he seems like he's got a lot of control over his life or wants to keep a lot of control in his life. And once this RV is located, turns out there's a driver in it, played by Paul Dano. This man, Alex Jones, quickly becomes the focus not only of the investigation, but of Keller Dover's obsession with finding his daughter. Detective Loki interrogates him for hours on end, but it turns out there's no evidence that Alex took these little girls, there's no evidence in the RV, and so Detective Loki has to let him go, and of course this enrages Keller Dover, and so he takes matters into his own hands.
Does he ever?
And makes Alex Jones a prisoner of his. And so as we watch this crime unfold and this story unfold and this search unfold, we're looking at Keller Dover doing what he can to try to find his girls, Detective Loki continuing to investigate everything that's happening, and as we learn more, we realize we may be dealing with a serial child killer.
Mm-hmm.
And this case just gets more complex and more people are involved. And I think the title of this movie is so perfect because everyone in their own way is a prisoner of some sort, either literally or figuratively. And this movie is dark. It definitely has Silence of the Lambs vibes, especially because it takes place in Pennsylvania. It's got the Rust Belt environment around it. So if you enjoyed the Silence of the Lambs, you're going to love this film.
Definitely.
It's not as disturbing as Nightcrawler, and I think that is because there's more people that you can empathize in this film.
I think that might be it, yeah. It's definitely disturbing, but there's far more humanity in Prisoners.
That is a fantastic way to put it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest of the movie is everyone in their own way trying to find these girls and the sinister motives behind this crime. I love this movie. I can't watch it as often as I would want to, given my love for it, just because it is such a dark film. And as you said before we started recording, you're not going to be like, ooh, let's watch Prisoners on Saturday afternoon, right?
No, definitely not. But at the same time, this was the second time I've seen Prisoners. So I remember when it ended the first time, I was like, oh man, I got to watch that again. And it's been probably about 10 years. I think I saw it right when it came out on DVD. I remember renting it, actually. When it ended this time around, I was like, I would watch that again in like another few months. And, I don't, it's a tough one to be like, I need to own that movie because do I? I don't know. I mean, I own Silence of the Lambs. I love horror movies. I love movies like this that are intense and twisted and you just, you want the good guy to prevail and and the bad guy to pay and et cetera, et cetera. But it's one of those movies that it's so haunting and it's shot so well, and I think as a movie and as a piece of entertainment, it is rewatchable. But as a story, it's like one of those movies that you need to take a step back from and then watch. You need to watch like a couple of years down the road.
Mm-hmm. I agree. This is my 4th time watching it. I saw it in theaters. Wow. I've seen it 3 times since then. Actually, so this is my 5th time watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I absolutely love about this week is comparing these two completely opposite roles of Jake Gyllenhaal's.
Oh, yeah.
He is absolutely believable as a sociopath in your movie.
Definitely.
And then you want him solving your case and comforting you in your home as a detective in my movie.
100%.
And I love the range that we're able to show of this actor this week, because watching these two movies back to back just reaffirmed my respect for Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor.
Oh, 100%. He is a very, very talented guy. Yeah, watching him in this and like trying to break down certain moments of the movie, and, you know, some of the interrogation scenes, you know, are just like, oh, they're brutal, and you just want to jump through the screen and like help them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's because these characters seem like real people.
They really do. And I remember watching this the first time and thinking, this is the second movie that I've seen Hugh Jackman like really go for it. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'm talking about The Fountain, of course, because that's my favorite Hugh Jackman performance. I love him as Wolverine. He's great. Love him in Greatest Showman. He's great. He can sing. He can dance. He's very talented. But when he can draw you in with full-on human emotion, like in The Fountain and in this movie, he was the main reason why I wanted to see it in the first place. I'll never forget the shot where he's like standing there crying in his living room and telling Jake Gyllenhaal that he needs to find his daughter. And I was like, okay, I'm going to see this because this is a side of Jackman I've not seen. Mm-hmm. And I really, really like it. As fucked up as that sounds, like, I love this movie because Hugh Jackman's so good. But he is. He's so good.
He absolutely is. And I wish I could add some audio clips to this episode, but the best scenes of his in the movie are him screaming at Gyllenhaal, and I'm not going to assault our listeners' ears with that, so I won't put it in. But I can tell you, I know this episode is titled Give Jake Gyllenhaal an Oscar already, but Hugh Jackman absolutely should have been nominated for his performance as well.
Oh, completely agree. He's so wonderful.
He's absolutely wonderful and heartbreaking in this film. And as you said, he was in your pick of The Fountain. That was actually back in episode 3. That was 100 episodes ago.
Oh, look at that. That's actually pretty cool.
It is. So we haven't talked about Hugh Jackman since then.
Wow. It's been a while.
It has been a while. As you said, he was also in X-Men, The Greatest Showman, that you introduced me to, that I then introduced my nieces to, and we all now love the soundtrack.
Yay.
He's in a favorite of yours for some inexplicable reason. He's in Van Helsing.
It's just so much fun.
It's so ridiculous.
It is. It's bad, but it's fun.
He's in a Christopher Nolan movie that everybody trips over themselves for. And when the big reveal was shown in that movie, I just shrugged my shoulders and was like, eh.
Oh, really? Oh, that was an eye popper for me.
For some reason, it didn't blow my mind.
Huh, interesting. That is a great, great movie. And who's in it?
Well, it's, first of all, that movie's called The Prestige that we're talking about. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, and V, who's in it? We haven't talked about him in a long time.
We haven't, even though we love him, even though I just saw Labyrinth re-released in theaters a couple weeks ago, which was so much fun.
Yes.
David Bowie is in The Prestige.
Yes, he plays Tesla.
He does, and he does a very good job.
Very. I really like The Prestige. You know, it's funny, I almost watched that instead of Mad Max Fury Road the other day.
Oh.
But I watched Mad Max Fury Road instead, and now I should have watched The Prestige.
It would have been timely, that's true.
Indeed.
Hugh Jackman is also in Australia, Real Steel, Eddie the Eagle with Taron Egerton.
Ah.
And a couple of rom-coms, Someone Like You and Kate and Leopold.
Kate and Leopold is awesome.
It's a rom-com.
It is. It is. A time-traveling rom-com.
It is. It's not a time travel movie I liked that much, though.
Oh, really? Oh, I've always enjoyed it.
It's okay. I just thought Meg Ryan was pretty unlikable in the movie.
Okay, I could see that.
The reason I'm mentioning Hugh Jackman's credits first is because he actually gets top billing in this movie.
Ah.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Detective Loki is second billing.
Wow.
His first ever role was in City Slickers.
Jake Gyllenhaal's?
Yep, playing Billy Crystal's son.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen City Slickers in like 25 years.
I watched it a couple years ago. It totally held up.
Nice.
Yeah. He's also in a sweet movie with Susan Sarandon and Dustin Hoffman called Moonlight Mile.
Ah, I remember that one. I never saw that one.
I watched it once. It was okay. He was in one of my favorite disaster movies, The Day After Tomorrow.
Yes, Roland Emmerich.
His only Oscar nom came from Brokeback Mountain.
Oh, you know, I've not seen that one. I got to see that one still.
I've seen it a couple times. It's fantastic.
I've always heard that it was a really good one.
He's also in Jarhead, Zodiac, Brothers, Love and Other Drugs, End of Watch, that is absolutely going to be one of our picks in this podcast.
End of Watch is really good. That's a good one.
Southpaw, Everest, which is actually a pretty good film.
He's in Everest, really?
Mm-hmm.
I only really remember Josh Brolin in that one.
Oh, because he gets all of his face frozen off. That's why it's very traumatic. He's also in Nocturnal Animals.
Oh, yeah.
And as you said, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Nice. I have not seen Nocturnal Animals. I heard that one is a twisted-ass flick.
I feel like you'd enjoy it.
That's what my sister said. My sister watched it and was like, you got to see Nocturnal Animals. You'd love it. And I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. And I still haven't. It's Amy Adams, too, right?
It is.
Yeah, nice.
And as everyone knows from listening to last week's episode, and the inspiration for this theme this week is because he is in the remake of Roadhouse that is now streaming on Prime that we both loved.
Yes, indeed. Watch Roadhouse. It's awesome.
As I said...
But Conor McGregor's not. No, that's a Scottish accent. See? He's terrible.
But you did a better accent than Conor McGregor did.
I guess so,
Conor
yeah.
McGregor is from the country
Irish.
he's supposed to be playing. I'm still so confused.
I know. So weird.
It's so ridiculous. Oh, gosh. As I said, Paul Dano plays Alex Jones, the man who is suspected of the kidnapping in this movie. And
I wondered if the name Alex Jones was like a fuck you to Alex Jones.
I know. Throughout this whole movie, that's the only thing I could think of. I was like, oh, God, this is uncomfortable. He's actually been in a couple pics of mine in the past.
Indeed, he has.
He's in The Girl Next Door from episode 14.
Yeah.
Which
right.
He's so good in that film, too. And that movie's great. He's also in Looper from episode 54.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Speaking of time-traveling movies. He's also in There Will Be Blood.
Oh, so magnificent in There Will Be Blood.
I've only seen that movie once, and I was in my early 20s when it was released, and I hated it. I really need to revisit, because I love Daniel Day-Lewis.
I saw it twice in a weekend. I went opening day, and then I went again like that Saturday night.
Nice.
Like that movie, I love that movie so much.
Okay.
It'll be on the list.
Oh, good. Well, that'll make it easy for me then.
Indeed. And that's almost a 3-hour-long movie, so we'll be in good hands.
Sweet. He's also in 12 Years a Slave, another movie I never want to watch again because it's so traumatizing, not because it's bad.
Oh, I've never seen it.
He's in Okja.
Oh.
And more recently, not only is he the Riddler in the new Batman movie,
Ooh.
which is ironic considering he sings the Joker version of Jingle Bells in this movie.
Right.
And then lastly, his most recent film, a film I discussed in our recap episode of 2023, he's in Dumb Money, and he was great in it.
I still gotta watch Dumb Money.
You do. As I said, Terrence Howard plays Franklin Birch, Keller Dover's best friend in this movie and the father of the other family. He was in Dead Presidents, Mr. Holland's Opus,
Yeah.
The Best Man, a masterpiece called Biker Boys that I had to watch because it was full of motorcycles. It was so terrible. He's also in one of the worst Best Picture winners ever made, Crash.
Oh, that's right, he is.
Hustle and Flow.
Good movie.
The Mark Wahlberg movie, Four Brothers.
I never saw Four Brothers.
It's fun. You'd like it. Good revenge film.
Oh, okay.
He plays a detective in that movie.
Nice.
He's in a movie you vetoed of mine called August Rush.
Oh, I guess I didn't get that far.
You did not get that far. He's in the very first Iron Man before Don Cheadle took over his role.
That's right.
He is the voice of James the father in The Princess and the Frog.
Yeah, he is.
He's great in it. And he's also in Red Tails and the show Empire.
I've never seen Red Tails. That's actually been on my to-watch list for some time. I always liked Terrence Howard.
I always like fighter pilot movies, so it's been on my list as well.
Ah, sweet. And then now there's Masters of Air on Apple that looks pretty good too.
With Austin Butler that I really need to watch,
That's
especially
right, yeah.
because I think they spent something insane like $2 million an episode is what I read. It was nuts.
Wow.
I really need to watch that
There's
show.
there's an hour-long documentary on Apple about that. Not the production, but about the actual men. So I think it's probably would behoove everybody to watch the documentary and then watch Masters of the Air.
Nice.
Which is what I'm going to do because I like stuff like that too.
My grandfather was a pilot in World War II.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Viola Davis plays his wife in this movie. Her name's Nancy Birch. She's been in Out of Sight, Traffic.
Yes, she is in Traffic.
She's also in Kate and Leopold.
Yes, she is. She plays a cop.
She does. She's in Doubt.
Oh, yeah, Doubt. That was, yes.
Intense.
Yeah.
She's in Law Abiding Citizen, a movie that is great until about the last 5 minutes, and then it pisses me off.
Oh, no, I love the microwave moment.
No. She's also in Night and Day.
Is she really?
Yeah, she plays the director of the agency that Tom Cruise works for.
Oh, wow.
She's in The Help, Get On Up.
Cool.
A Denzel movie, Fences.
Oh, she made me cry in Fences.
She's in Widows, both versions of the Suicide Squad movies.
Oh, wow. I never did see Widows. I hear that's a great one, though.
Yeah, I heard it was really good, too. It was on my list that year, and then I never got around to it. More recently, she's in The Woman King, a movie you love.
Hell yeah.
Air, playing Michael Jordan's mom.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say, she was just in something recently.
And also The Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Oh, cool. I didn't see that one.
She also starred in the hit TV show How to Get Away with Murder for many years.
Oh, yeah. That was supposed to be a good show.
Yeah, it's Shonda Rhimes' show.
That's right.
Melissa Leo plays Alex Jones's guardian in this movie, Holly Jones.
Mm-hmm.
She's the mother in the Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale movie, The Fighter.
Great movie.
I think that's my favorite role of hers.
Yeah, she was really good. Everybody was great in The Fighter.
Yeah, I think she was nominated for an Oscar and maybe won for that movie.
I am almost 99% sure that she did win.
Yeah, okay.
I think that was the year of The Fighter.
Uh-huh. She's in a Denzel movie, Flight.
Yeah, and The Equalizer.
And all of the Equalizer movies. I was getting to that. Yes, you're absolutely right. No, not at all. Those are great films. And
yes, they are.
You love Denzel, so you should totally say that.
Hell yeah.
She's also in Oblivion, another Tom Cruise movie that I love.
Oh, Oblivion is pretty badass. That soundtrack is so good.
Unbelievable. And she has the classic line, "Are you still an effective team?"
Yeah.
Oh, she's so good in that movie.
Cinematography in that is so killer, too.
Mm-hmm. Shot in Iceland.
That is a good one.
Yes, one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies.
Nice.
Maria Bello plays Hugh Jackman's wife, Grace Dover, in this film.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a Mel Gibson movie that I love called Payback.
Ah.
She, of course, also starred in Coyote Ugly.
Oh, did she?
Yep, and she also committed the crime that was replacing Rachel Weisz in the Mummy series.
Yeah.
It's not her
Tomb
fault.
of the Dragon Emperor.
But it was still blasphemous.
It was, yeah.
And as I said, Denis Villeneuve is the director of this film. His films in order are Incendies.
Never saw it.
Enemy with Jake Gyllenhaal, which actually was filmed before this movie, even though it was released after Prisoners.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I have had Enemy on my to-watch list for a while. It looks good.
It's really weird.
Is it? Awesome.
Yes.
I should check it out then.
It's extremely weird. He also directed Sicario.
Magnificent.
Arrival.
Masterpiece.
Blade Runner 2049.
Boring!
And as I said, both Dune movies.
Yes. So I guess I haven't seen two of his movies then.
I just haven't seen Incendies.
All right, there you go. That's that one and Enemy are the two that I have not seen.
All right, his
I've seen
earlier
all those
works.
other movies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so glad you mentioned the cinematography of this movie. I love the framing of every single shot in this film.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because Roger Deakins was the director of photography.
Oh, wow. I guess I completely overlooked that in the credits.
Yes, he's an incredible cinematographer, one of the best in the business, and he was nominated for an Oscar for this film.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But then he went to win for...
Another Denis Villeneuve movie.
Yes, it was another Denis movie.
Because that was Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, that was... I think that was the Oscar for him that was like, okay, fine, we'll give you one now.
Right, exactly.
And it was unfortunate that it was for that one because it was so neon and... I don't
Fake
know.
And not practical.
I guess I gotta watch that one again. I really didn't like it when I first saw it, but I've been told that I should give it another shot.
You
that
should.
was a 2-hour and 49-minute movie, so
True.
Maybe I'll like it.
Denis likes to make long films.
He does.
Because this movie's over 2.5 hours long, too.
That's right.
But we will both certainly be talking about Roger Deakins again in the future because many of his films are on our list.
Oh, yeah.
And the first time this movie was submitted to the MPAA, it received an NC-17 rating due to its tone and subject matter.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's interesting.
It is, although somewhat understandable, and it's because, according to screenwriter Aaron Guzikowski, the original cut of the film was 3 hours long.
Oh, wow.
And so Denis Villeneuve actually edited out some of the torture scenes between Keller Dover and Alex Jones when he has him as a prisoner.
Aw, darn.
And some other violence in the movie. I really want to see the 3 hour cut, though.
I would love to see the 3 hour cut.
Yes, I would pay money for that.
Yes, let's get that one.
Yes, throw this movie on 4K and give us the unrated version.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah.
I would totally watch it.
And speaking of Jake Gyllenhaal being a little bit method, Detective Loki's tattoos, the Freemason ring, the facial tics were all Jake Gyllenhaal's ideas.
Oh, wow.
He spent 100 hours watching police interrogation footage.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I wonder of which interrogations.
Right? And according to the screenwriter, Guzikowski, Detective Loki grew up in a boys' home and didn't really have a family, as he mentions in the film. And
Right.
so he's a prisoner of his own past with his own demons. So that's his prison in the movie. And again, that's why I want a Detective Loki movie. I want him on other cases.
Hell yeah. That would be great if we got like a series of Detective Loki films.
Yeah, totally. As I mentioned, there are some torture scenes, or at least some hurting scenes. He hurts him a lot. I guess it is torture.
Yeah.
But the scene where Hugh Jackman is attacking Paul Dano with the hammer
Oh, yeah.
was mostly ad-libbed by Hugh Jackman.
Whoa, really?
They did a couple takes of it, and Denis Villeneuve asked Hugh Jackman, please be ferocious in this take. And so Hugh Jackman just went for it. Like I said, he was just going off the cuff.
Hell yeah.
Paul Dano didn't flinch at all in the scene and completely stayed in character, and that's how we got that shot.
Wow.
Very
That's
intense.
Pretty impressive stuff.
Right? Very awesome. And the screenplay for this film was actually featured on the 2009 Blacklist.
Really?
Yes, and when it was finally made in 2013, it was a great success. It had a budget of $46 million.
Wow.
In the U.S., it made $61 million.
Ooh.
Worldwide, it grossed $122 million.
Damn. All right.
And it is currently ranked number 158 on IMDb's top 250 films of all time.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is a highly regarded film.
Yeah, it is.
And I recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it who's listening.
I absolutely recommend it, especially if you are a fan of crime dramas. Definitely check this movie out.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed revisiting it.
Me too. Yeah, and my wife watched this one with me as well. When it ended, I asked her what she thought. She said the movie was good, just Jake Gyllenhaal creeped me out.
No, he's a good guy in this film.
I know. She's a fascinating one, that wife of mine.
Well, he is very intense in this film as well, but on the good side.
Very much so, yeah.
So please give this movie a shot. You can rent it on most streaming services.
That's how I watched it, and if you would like to check out Nightcrawler, it is currently streaming on Starz if you have a Starz subscription.
Nice, that's how I watched that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, John, would you watch Nightcrawler with your grandma?
I think my grandma would have liked it, actually.
Oh, she did like that twisted stuff.
She did, yes. I think she would have found it very fascinating and creepy and entertaining in a weird, in a twisted way.
Yeah.
Like we both did.
Exactly.
And V, would you watch Prisoners with your grandmother?
I wouldn't, because it's about child kidnapping.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that, more so than any violence in this film, would give me pause of recommending it to some of my friends and family.
Sure.
My sister, who's a mom, my best friend, Simbri, who's a mom, they just certainly would not want to watch this film. I think my mother, more so than my dad, would like to watch it just because she loves The Silence of the Lambs and those type of crime films.
Definitely.
But neither of these movies are at all appropriate for children.
No, I would agree with you on that. I would say 17 and above for mine.
Yep, that's what I was going to suggest for mine as well.
There you go.
Well, that is our Jake Gyllenhaal episode. Please give either of these movies a try, or The New Roadhouse. Or maybe let us know what your favorite Jake Gyllenhaal performance is.
Yes, I'm very curious what people would say to that. And if you say Donnie Darko, you're wrong. But, all opinions are valid.
And John, do you want to tell our audience what we picked for the theme next week? For good reason.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We are going Disney, everybody, again. Because we need a palate cleanser for these two films, for sure.
You can expect us to pick light palate cleansers after our intense episodes.
Yes, you absolutely can. And it's going to be a fun one because, V, I hadn't seen yours in a long time, even though I do own it on VHS. I think the last time I watched your pick was about 8 years ago when Amy and I got it at Amoeba Music.
When you still had a VHS player?
Yes, when I still had a VCR. So, V, what are we going to watch for your pick next week?
We decided to pick movies that are a combination of live action and animation. As you all know, we love that combo.
Oh, yeah.
I picked a very old movie. Well, I guess it's not that old. It's actually only 1971. I thought it was much older.
Oh, I actually did too, yeah.
Right? I thought it was from the 50s for some reason.
I think everybody, including myself, associate Angela Lansbury with just being very old.
Well, and David Tomlinson's in it, which he's in the other legendary animation live-action combo of Disney. He's in Mary Poppins. It's the father.
Indeed. Yes, he is.
Which
Mr.
came
George
out,
Banks.
Which came out in the early 60s, which is probably why I think of Bedknobs and Broomsticks coming out in a similar time period.
Oh, is that the movie you chose?
Oh, shit. Yes, that's the movie I chose. Sorry.
Fantastic.
That was so anticlimactic. I chose the 1971 Disney-produced David Tomlinson, Angela Lansbury, Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Sweet. It's lovely bobbing along. I can't wait to get into that one.
Yes.
It's been so long, but it's a lot of the songs come up on my Disney playlist in the car, so I know a lot of the music already.
And they're still very good.
They are indeed.
And John, what live-action animation combination movie did you pick?
Oh, I'm excited to do mine. Mine comes from 1977. V, I know it's going to be a reintroduction for you. This film stars Shawn Marshall, Helen Reddy, Jim Dale, and Mickey Rooney in Pete's Dragon, everybody. And if you would like to follow along with us, you can watch it on Disney+.
Same place you can watch my film.
Yeah. And I actually have 2 VHS copies of Pete's Dragon, and I have the DVD. I'm a big fan of this movie. We'll get into how big a fan. No, not at all. You'll all learn how big a fan I am of Pete's Dragon when we do this episode next week. I'm very excited. So yeah, that's going to be a fun one. Disney animation live action combos.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our Jake Gyllenhaal themed episode this week. And give these intense movies a try. And as always, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. We really appreciate it, and it's so important. And if you do it, you'll get a sticker. Well, I think that wraps up this week's episode, John.
Sounds like it does.
All right. Well, as all of you know, we like to end with film as a form of art. And in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
Jake Gyllenhaal shouldn't have an Oscar by now.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.